What is up, everyone? Chris Manning here. That's Evan Dammarell. We are going to talk about Koby Altman's extension, talk about Cavs Jazz, and that's all coming up today on Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Before we get into the meat of today's show, I want to thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every single day. Remember, we are free and available on all platforms. That includes YouTube, where we want you to subscribe and help us get to 1,000 subscribers. And I want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Check out PrizePicks.com and use the promo code NBA, or go to your app store and download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Evan, before we get into today's show, what are you drinking over there? Viewers saw you take a chug of something as we got going. What are you drinking?
A Hawaiian shaved ice flavored Alani New. 0 sugar, decent amount of caffeine. Doesn't make me feel like hot garbage before I finish consuming it. But enough with the chit chat. Let's get going with the chit chat. Chris, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for holding us down solo yesterday.
Bro, I did a little how the sausage is made. Locked On is hosting these segments on just improving our brand and stuff. We did an energy segment, and the guy's hosting saying, listen, if you're doing a solo show, you should feel exhausted after you finish. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel okay after you and I finish. I went solo yesterday, and I was like mentally drained. So I'm like, I had to bring it for a whole 30 minutes. And I don't know how you did it. I don't know how people on the network right now are still doing it. It's insane to me to think about.
John Corrales from Locked On Celtics, Jake Madison from Locked On Pelicans, and Brad Rowland from my buddy Brad Rowland, Brad Rowland from Locked On Hawks. Of the three people that I think are doing solo shows now, are absolutely savages. But Evan, someone who is, I don't know if they're doing a lot of like work solo. I would imagine if Koby Altman had a podcast, he would be like it'd be more of like a 9-person kind of thing. He seems like a guy that would want like a lot of collaboration. I'm just
a 9-person podcast sounds like hell. A 4-man show with the chase down is like tough for us. I can't even imagine a 9-man pod.
So
unless it's like an open table discussion and you're just recording it.
Yeah, I mean, just riffing. But Koby Altman is first reported by ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski and subsequently confirmed by lots of media outlets, has agreed to a contract extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers that'll take him through the 2027 to 28 season. He also gets a little promotional name title change. He's now the Cavs president of basketball operations. Famously, Evan, this was, I believe, a sticking point in the David Griffin part of his exit was the title.
That's what Chauncey wanted too.
It is what a time. We're gonna get into that a little bit, but Koby Altman has been, I think, done a really good job the last 12 months. The deal is also kind of coincides with JB Bickerstaff having his contract extended through 2026 through 2027. Koby Altman has been the Cavs GM since July 2017. That's about a year after Cleveland won the title. He's been with the Cavs since 2012. He was very involved in overseas scouting. He was, for instance, I believe the point of contact for Jetty Osman before he took over. He's the longest tenured general manager in the Dan Gilbert era of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, about 2 decades now. Evan, this wasn't, I think like when we saw the JB thing come through, I am not particularly surprised that Koby has also been extended. I don't have like a big take on if it's good or bad. Some of these things I feel like I'm just like, okay, like, you know what? Like I'm pro Koby and I'm pro JB and their families like securing the bag for as long as possible. That to me is a win. I'm pro labor, and the labor getting money is good to me. But what I find interesting is that this is all sort of happening. Relatively, the Cavs' success here has been a short window of success here. Like really, the franchise has turned around, so to speak, since Evan Mobley gets drafted. They get Jared Allen last year. Darius Garland, has had his kind of leap the last 2 seasons. Colin Sexton's been around since 2018, but like they really have only like won basketball games. The thing that defines the success or failure of these guys' jobs since like October. Like this is really like a pretty recent success thing. And I find it interesting that they are committing. I don't know if I feel like I have a positive reaction to it, a negative reaction to it. I think it is just interesting to note that this is a franchise that is paying for stability at general manager and at head coach. And like if we talk about like the nucleus of a franchise, ownership, front office, coaching, those three things almost have to be in sync. And it feels like this is like them trying to be in sync on this front. That is the only way that I read this as of right now.
Yeah, well, when we had JB Bickerstaff on the show, he shared with us that he and Koby kind of operate in lockstep in terms of just like overall vision for the roster. Like JB has input, obviously Koby makes the final decisions because he is now, as general manager now is Pobo for the team. We know that their analytics department does a lot of analysis. They have scouts who do a lot of analysis, and Koby kind of just tethers all these different voices together to form a final opinion on what is best for this team.
And like my understanding of some of it is it's like even Koby has been involved like at very granular levels of some stuff. Like I think when they've interviewed like data scientist folks, like he has been in those interviews. Like when they've interviewed someone who's like at the baseline level of like their analytics department, he's involved in that. Like I think this is a guy that has been pretty involved in sort of everything that has gone on here. Like I think that reflects on him, despite the fact that like as selfishly, I think like him talking to the media more is good. I think that is frankly.
Like, but Chris, I got a leak from the desk of Koby Altman for us.
Oh, okay.
I want to formally apologize for creating a team that is packing and caught your team lacking. Cavs in 4.
Definitely, that's absolutely something Koby Altman did not write. But like I think in terms of like what again, like there's a lot I think we don't know about how the Cavs sort of work right now. Like I think there's like a lot of sort of like stuff we could poke at and guess at, and I think some of that's frankly inappropriate for reasons I don't want to talk about. But
those things. I thought you were talking about just like how Koby operates. I'm like, yeah, he operates in the shadows. It's always been
I mean that is sort of well known. I think we've discussed it enough. I think there's the other part of it with one of those.
I'm just saying, if you want to compare him to like Andrew Berry or Chris Antonetti, like Antonetti is so hands-on and available in terms of.
Do you have? Well, that's Antonetti's an interesting name to bring up here. The Cleveland Guardians, head guy over there.
Yeah,
I always like get a kick sometimes out of reading some of the Zach Meisel stuff because Zach Meisel is really really great. He's my favorite person over at the Athletic Cleveland. Just incredible beat reporter covering that team. He does. There's been times where like he has written about like being on the same flight and like he's like not like Antonetti and some of his other people up in like first class and he's in the different part of the plane and like he'll go up and like just talk to him and like I don't know if like especially in the COVID world like I think like we've seen Koby Altman like walking around before games on the court like you don't see like you just don't see him very often and like there's a certain level of separation.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at is like Antonetti's on the radio often. Andrew Berry is a pretty common feature of like radio shows and things like that. Like we can't really dissect the thought process of Koby Altman because he doesn't make himself available. And to his credit, we went a very decent time between when Andre Drummond, I think, was released or the Kevin Porter Jr. trade and then the draft. Like it was a decent chunk of when we didn't hear from Koby at all. I'll give him credit. I think him coming out and leading media day and just kind of opening himself up to questions for everything is helpful. I think we'll probably hear from him again at the trade deadline. Maybe if they announce the extension, he has been, which I don't think they formally announced. JB
they haven't, and I don't want to talk about media stuff anymore because this became a Chris Minnick bit to the point.
I know, but what I'm trying to get at is Koby operates in the shadows. He is elusive. I don't really dwell too much on the fact that JB got an extension and Koby got an extension. I think, listen, the team's successful. It just makes sense to reward the guys who are big proponents of this and maybe you reward the players, i.e. Darius Garland in the offseason who are actually contractually able to.
The Garland bag is coming. The Garland bag is coming.
But this is also an organization that is more than comfortable with paying coaches to no longer be their coaches because when JB took over, I think Ty Lue is still on the payroll. I think Mike Brown was finishing up on the payroll. John Beilein was still on the payroll. And now JB Bickerstaff's being coached. Let's say I'm not saying he's going to get fired, but if he does, I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a level of dysfunction at the top. The Cavs are very comfortable paying 5 coaches at the same time. I'm sure they're very comfortable paying 2 general managers at the same time.
Yeah. These things are never like guaranteed fully. Like that's not how this works. Like
Yeah,
no one
so
ever
I
finishes
don't
out
dwell
contracts.
too much on like the extension itself. I think it's just like you said, they are paying for stability, which is refreshing. I think when you and I first started doing this show together, it was really during the doldrums of the John Beilein era. And the biggest thing we complained about is how unstable this organization is. And they're finally showing some signs of it. Like that's refreshing in itself, I think. I think I can take away that positivity from it is just the fact that the Cavs are showing stability. They're winning. I think they're kind of starting to show their lumps, maybe experience some growing pains. Maybe Mobley's going to hit that rookie wall soon. I think this is going to be a tougher road trip than people may realize. And I don't know, man. The Cavs were projected to win 26 games this year. They're still on pace to be in the upper 30s to mid 40s in my eyes. I know, like, Cleaning the Glass has them at 52, which is pretty bonkers to think
Well,
about
then
still. But
Kurt Goldsberry at ESPN today had he kind of did like some tiers ranking, and the Cavs are in his second tier, which would be the tier 2, which is solid playoff teams. And he was the first
yeah,
team that he wrote there. So, currently
that's what they are, is a
yeah,
solid playoff team.
yeah,
And
which
the
massive,
expectations were rock bottom going into this year.
yeah, that's a massive step forward for where we thought the
Yeah.
Cavs were like 6 months, like even 6 months ago. This is a massive step forward.
Yeah, if you asked me 6 months ago if the Cavs are going to be flirting with the playoffs, and like I tell my girlfriend this, I tell my parents this, like I'm going to finally be busy in March and April and possibly May as well, because Cleveland doesn't pack it up at the end of April, or I just start saying, I can't say, like, my famous line is like, okay, they're a turd right now, and there's only so many ways you can polish a turd before you realize it's a turd. This is a good Cavs team, and I will eat crow on this all the time. When I said they weren't a playoff team, you, me, Ben Axelrod all said smash the under on this Cavs win total. I will say I'm not wrong often, but this is one of the times I was wrong.
I'm wrong.
Don't make that face. Don't make that face. The Cavs didn't win the championship in 2017.
Okay, that's a shot that's not needed. Anyway, Evan, after the break, let's get into what the biggest tasks of Koby Altman's tenure are going to be as he kind of moves forward here. I kind of want to dissect kind of what the next kind of steps for him in the rest of the front office are going to be. But first, you're going to tell everyone about our friends at PrizePicks.
I sure do. Hey, Cavs fans, not based in Ohio. You've been hearing me tell you all about PrizePicks for months. Have you signed up yet? PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. If you have not checked it out yet, you're missing out. I'm telling you, you're going to love the app for the NBA and mixed spots pick'ems. The Christmas Day games were a blast and even more fun if you played PrizePicks. PrizePicks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. PrizePicks offers more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator and offers all the superstar players as well as bench players only recording a handful of minutes each game. PrizePicks offers any props you can think of, from points, assists, rebounds, threes, mades, shots, etc. All of your users that deposit and use my promo code will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Just be sure to use promo code NBA. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on the projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks allows mixed sports entries. You can take the over on Embiid combined with the under on Rodgers in the same entry. Use the award-winning app for both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. PrizePicks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. Go to PrizePick.com today and use promo code NBA, or go to the App Store on your mobile device and download the app. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. If you're not playing PrizePicks, you honestly do not know what you're missing.
Evan, when you look at Koby Altman's, forthcoming tasks here.
Yeah.
So
are we talking like short term, like this season, or are we talking?
No, we've done enough of this season stuff. I think in terms of like building out this roster, because I think we would say, we're gonna do 5 minute. I just did a U and punched my mic. We're gonna do the 5 minute thing. Solidarity, brother. We're gonna do 5 minutes on this, and I want to do 5 minutes on how fat. And again, I want to reflect on the timeline of the Koby Altman era, because it's just wild to think about. But first thing, the next 5 years, let's just say like he runs this out. Like this is 6 years from now. Like this theoretically would run out. Let's just say the next like 3-4 years, as you look at this era of Mobley, of Darius Garland, of Jared Allen. Those are the 3 pillars, and I think it'd be Mobley, Garland, Allen in that order.
Correct.
How what do you envision as like the the next kind of steps for him, upgrading the roster, upgrading, things around these three guys? Like, what do you envision as sort of the next kind of steps are in terms of continuing this trajectory, even if it is not going to be like straight up, like if some kind of consistent growth. Maybe it's there could be some choppiness, obviously, because things are never directly just up and up and up. But what do you imagine the next kind of steps are?
Well, it depends, honestly, what they do with the deadline, I think, because they do have their 2022 pick. And I think, like you said, they have Darius Garland, they have Evan Mobley, they have Jared Allen. And I agree with your Mobley, Garland, Allen order of priority, I guess, long term. But do you want to add another 18, 19, 20-year-old into the fold with your draft pick? Or do you want to try and cash in maybe on this moderate success this season, put some protections on your first round pick, and maybe go swing for a rotation level piece? Because, to quote you, the Cavs can never have enough adults in the room with how young and impressionable this roster is. And let's say like a Karis LeVert or a Buddy Hield or somebody is available. Like you go and maybe go for that if you think that's enough, a good enough move to kind of, because the Cavs are the 6th seed right now heading to the Wednesday's game against Utah. But do you want to remain in that range so you avoid the play-in tournament so you're guaranteed a spot in the playoffs? I agree with that, but you have to start evaluating that. Maybe you need to start evaluating draft prospects long-term. Maybe you need to look internally and see what you have. So yeah, clearly you have Garland, Mobley, and Allen. Do you have enough complementary pieces that you're building as well? Like Sexton, don't know what he's going to be with his meniscal tear. I think you need to evaluate him and maybe move forward with that. Whether that you let him test the market in free agency and you can bring him back on a team-friendly contract, because I think the money he was offered by the Cavs, it's going to be less than if he tries to negotiate with the Cavs now, just because Colin Sexton is an athletic player. And yes, modern medicine works better and he should have a full recovery. But there are concerns because of meniscal tear. You can tear it again pretty easily after the first time you do it. But you look at him, you look at what you have with Okoro as well. You figure out maybe Jetty Osman, is he a tradable asset? Like you see what assets that you surround your big three with, quote unquote, and you see, are there moves we can make to make an upgrade? Could they go big name hunting this offseason? I think they could if you could get a team like Boston interested for Jaylen Brown, or if you could get New Orleans if somehow David Griffin still has a job. You could get David Griffin.
Don't you know what? Kudos to the Pelicans for being like in the play-in hunt again. Kudos to them. Brandon Ingram hitting shots. Good stuff. You know what?
Brandon Ingram's their MVP.
I just want Jake Madison.
I think it's a hot take. People are already saying like Evan Mobley's better than Zion Williamson. I think they're on equal footing because people forget Zion had like 27, 7, and 4 last year on pretty insane efficiency. But either way, maybe you're able to pry Brandon Ingram from New Orleans if this blows up. They're like, yeah, they're back at the play-in hunt, but like this could still blow up because they were pretty putrid to start the season with Brandon Ingram on the floor too. You just got to see what available moves are out there, because I think you need to start bringing in known commodities that are still a little younger. I don't say go hunting like Eric Gordon. I don't hate that trade in a vacuum, but again, he is in his 30s, so you're not really looking at a player that you can keep around long term if you're investing in them. Maybe you look for guys that are roughly the same age as like Allen or Garland in that threshold. You don't want to bring in more 18, 19, 20-year-olds to develop them and help them grow out. And also just smartly play the undrafted free agent and the players that are kind of overlooked, like you said, like Jashawn Tate. Like that's a really good example. Like the Cavs can start developing more core rotation pieces like they kind of have with Lamar Stevens. They kind of have with Dean Wade so far. Like if they continue to utilize the charge to do that as well, I think that's a smart move, because the Cavs are in a pretty good place, obviously. It all just depends on what you do next. And I think Markkanen, I forgot about him, but he's another tradable asset too. If he's able to kind of bounce back and rehabilitate some of his three-point shooting woes as of late, that's an option too. Like the Cavs are in an interesting place. Like they're in a good place right now. They're probably going to be a playoff team this year, but they're in an interesting enough place where they can kind of cash in some of the assets they've accumulated over this Renaissance era of theirs and really just kind of push forward and say, okay, we have a big three, but we brought in a bigger name to maybe be the fourth musketeer in this group, or at least he is a strong enough supporting piece that it pushes the Cavs over from being like a fringe play-in / playoff team to like a serious threat in the Eastern Conference. Not saying like a championship's on the line, because Milwaukee and Brooklyn are their own monsters in their own right. But Cleveland could push the needle towards like saying, okay, we could at least be annoying, so it's not an easy out for Milwaukee and Brooklyn, and then eventually just keep building on that success. And then maybe 5 years from now, who knows? But I'm intrigued to see where it goes.
Yeah. Let's move on because that was 5 minutes. So, just real quick, just noting on the timeline of you just talking. We gotta move on.
I'm just really good at it after filling a whole podcast by myself. Full disclosure, in the first segment, I was like, okay, I'm totally at 9 minutes. And I switched over from my notes back to the restream tab. And I'm like, I'm only 4 minutes and 30 seconds in. I'm out of things to talk about. I see you slowly doing the Chris Pratt Star-Lord middle finger. It must be a big fish because you've been reeling for a while.
Yeah,
you got to let the slack out a little bit or else you'll break your line.
Not a fisherman. But here's just a note on how far this has come. Koby Altman was the second choice for Dan Gilbert to Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups now head coach of the very in not in a good place Portland Trail Blazers. John Beilein was the head coaching hire that he makes after the disastrous 2018-19 season. It is paraded around as the Koby Altman hire. Just the quotes about like him meeting him at a wedding just never felt real, and I'm just like, okay, like this is some sus. This is just some spin, and I respect the fact that they were able to succeed in doing that, but it just never felt like genuine to me. If I'm keeping it honest, you can interpret it how you want. People can interpret it how they want. It is just such a crazy turnaround to like he is the second choice. He has to do the Kyrie trade. He has the last season of LeBron James. The Cavs stink, and the life is sucked out of the franchise that first draft for LeBron as things tend to go. And then we're like, the pandemic happens. John Beilein is the head coach. And then they get Mobley. Garland ascends. They get the Jared Allen thing. Like, there's just been a couple of things that have really changed the trajectory. And
can I ask one question? Do you really think Evan Mobley is just like the one who just completely changes franchises' fortunes?
Yeah.
That
it's not just him like the snap of Thanos' finger, but it's a part of it. Like, I mean, I think I feel very confident saying like you go back to the draft. If like as I had sort of expected when the lottery fell the way it did, okay, I thought Mobley was gonna go too, and I thought the Cavs were gonna take a.
I did too. Yeah, and that would have been fine. I don't think we'd be having the season we're seeing right now.
They're not this good if you swap out Green for Mobley, and I feel pretty sure about that.
Yeah, I'd be trolling the hell out of Sexton fans instead.
Evan, you do that anyway.
No, I have not mentioned him. I've just mentioned the fact that there is an obvious scoring dip without him and Rubio on the floor. That's all I've said when in regards to Colin Sexton. I am a saint. I have been a good boy this year.
Okay.
Good vibes only, as Chris Manning would say.
Yeah, I try. Anyway, after the break, we're going to get into Cavs Jazz. I don't feel like we have a ton else to say about Koby Altman and this extension right now. Again, he signed through 2027-28. We'll see if this gets formally announced, when it does. If he speaks, I would be curious to see what he has to say about some of the success we've seen, and not from him crafting a thing that he can put on the Cavs website. But got to tell everyone first about our friends at Built Bar. Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your New Year's health resolutions because it tastes so good you're going to want to eat it. And unlike other protein bars, they are not chalky or waxy or taste like a chemical spill. Blah. You want to get healthy, but you sometimes just need a healthy snack that actually tastes good. And Built Bar can be that. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Even if you're, maybe unsure about these, just think of some of these great flavors: coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, and mint brownie. And there's a ton more. They're always coming out with new limited time flavors as well. So check out Built.com often to see what's new. Go to Built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. And I'm going to tell you about our friends at BetOnline, who would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today are available from BetOnline, and you can receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All you got to do is use the promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football to basketball to hockey to boxing and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet and wager on all of your favorite sports. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. Use that promo code Locked On to get your 50% welcome bonus. Evan, Cavs Jazz, 9 p.m. in Utah. Believe Rudy Gobert is still out.
He is.
That
I will
has
double check though. There it
Yeah,
is. Punch the mic. Solidarity, baby.
right. Rudy Gobert is, as far as I believe, he is still out as he is in the COVID-19 protocols.
He is. Rudy Gay is out as well. Elijah Hughes is out. Jared Butler is out, and Udoka Azubuike is out.
So here's what I would say about this game. Gobert is obviously vitally important to their defense. I think this, with the Cavs having their two bigs, I think Allen. When these two teams played earlier in the year, one of the things that stood out was that this game was close. Garland kind of had some issues going against Gobert late in this game. If you remember that last possession,
Bro, Jared Allen had like the worst game of his career this season against Rudy Gobert.
I know people like to slander Gobert. Gobert is a good NBA player, and
when he emphatically blocked Jared Allen, I was like, "Oh, it's that kind of game."
It was one of it was like, okay, this is the game where Jared Allen probably shouldn't post up. Now, like some of the Cavs stuff that normally would work, I think can work a little bit better now that the Gobert is not going to be playing center for them. On the flip side, not having Isaac Okoro to defend Donovan Mitchell is a potential problem for Cleveland here. So what are you looking for as far as this game goes?
I'm interested to see what Utah gets from Hassan Whiteside in this one, honestly, because Hassan Whiteside's going to be the one who's starting at center for Utah. Joe Ingles is unavailable. I'm trying to see what depth chart the Jazz used, in this game as I break it down. So they started Donovan Mitchell, Royce O'Neal, Bojan Bogdanovic, Hassan Whiteside, and Mike Conley. I assume Conley's going to defend Garland. I assume Mitchell's just going to kind of be put on the probably market end at this point. You put O'Neal on Golly. I don't know. And then like Whiteside will go on Allen, and then Bogdanovic can probably be pesky just in general too. This is
a good player.
It's a good defensive matchup for Evan Mobley, I'd say. Hassan Whiteside's kind of been hit or miss. I think it's insane. Well, not really. I think Utah's system's really good, but I think it's also insane that like Quinn Snyder's turned Hassan Whiteside into such like an impactful player for them, where like they can plug him in the starting lineup. He plays 33 minutes. I mean, granted they played Detroit, but he had 21-14, 3 blocks, 2 steals, and assists. Like Hassan Whiteside is just like a polarizing player, I think, and he's going to kind of be the fulcrum for the Cavs. So either they can kind of get him in foul trouble early and maybe exploit the mismatch where they're not having to deal with Gobert. Maybe they feed Jared Allen in that regard. Or the Cavs, like you said, kind of learn from their mistakes, realize like Utah is a very sound defensive team. They play very physically. I stressed this in yesterday's episode. Like this will be the 6th team in a row the Cavs will play that just plays like a very physical brand of basketball. So it's just another good test for Mobley and Allen. I'm interested to see what happens. And like you said, not having a Okoro is going to be tough. I think you throw Stevens on him and kind of hope for the best. But maybe it's more of like switchability stuff too. Maybe we see more minutes from Cedi Osman as well, just to kind of freelance and just get some more spacing options too, because Utah's just an interesting squad, man. Like Jordan Clarkson is probably going to roast Cleveland's bench because the Cavs don't really have a player to defend him unless they overplay Stevens.
He has not been as good this year. It's worth noting.
It is worth noting, but like he had an alright game against the Pistons the last time out for them. He had 16, 5, and 3 on 6 of 11 shooting. He's averaging 15, 3.5 and 2.3 on the season on not very good shooting numbers. At least they're lower than his career averages across the board, but I don't know. I think Jordan Clarkson could beat up Cleveland pretty easily because they don't have that point of attack defender in Okoro.
Yeah,
just to kind of lean on.
Stevens kind of has to play the role. Notably, just quick notes on Utah: 3 losses in a row. Have lost at Toronto, at Indiana, and at Detroit. The Pistons game was like kind of a mess for them, and this is with Donovan Mitchell scored 36 against Indiana on Saturday, and then he scored 31 in Detroit, and they lost. So, look, this is a game that I think just where Utah is at right now, the way they're struggling, I think this is more winnable than perhaps we would have expected for the Cavs on this road trip. This is one of those things where it's like no Gobert, no Ingles. That is 2 rotation pieces for Utah. I think that you're down Okoro. Like you're still kind of incorporating the Rondo thing a bit. Like there's still some stuff you are figuring out here. I still think this is the team that we are going to just kind of dive in here and kind of see if they can continue to figure some of this out. And then after this, Evan, here's the rest of this road trip before they get Brooklyn at home next week on MLK Day. At Utah, at San Antonio on Friday, and at Oklahoma City on Saturday. This is still like a tricky end to the road trip, but they're 2-1 on this road trip right now. I think if they win the night and they go 3-3 on this, let's just say they I don't know if they will or not, but let's just say they theoretically lose the back-to-back. Like I think them coming out of this road trip 3-3, beating Portland, losing to the Warriors, which, that's fine. The Warriors might win the freaking title this year and got Clay back. That was the crazy game. You beat the Kings the way you did, kind of a sloggy kind of game, but you kind of pulled it out late. And then if you can beat Utah on the road, and then there's just a chance to make this kind of a successful trip in a way that like maybe it doesn't have a right to be. And if you're still battling for top 6 status in the East, you're trying to kind of avoid that play-in as things kind of settle down and things kind of shake out the way they are, as we're like halfway through the season. Again, we're literally halfway through the season, which is bonkers to think about after the Kings game. The Cavs at 23-18, halfway through the year. Like, that's a really good place to be to me. If you can you can pick up win 24 on Wednesday and then maybe get one of those other two. At the very least, you come out of a West Coast road trip 3-3. I frankly feel pretty good about that if you can kind of squeeze that reality out of it.
No, absolutely. One last question for you before we go. When is the last time Cleveland won in Utah?
Oh my God. I honestly have no idea. The game from Utah that I remember like vividly in my brain is was that not the game where LeBron got really mad at Kyrie for not having any assists? Wasn't that in Utah?
I think it was either that or no, that was Denver. I'm pretty sure. Let me
that doesn't matter. That doesn't really matter.
So Utah's already a tough place for Cleveland to win in general. The Jazz have won their last 7 games between the two.
Yeah, it's one of the road environments that is trickier for teams to go and win. I think that is worth kind of noting here as we say this is a possible. I'm gonna look, Evan, while you got to give me the answer to this trivia, I'm gonna find the betting line for tonight real quick.
It was during the 2013-14 season. The Cavs went to Salt Lake City. Kyrie Irving had 25 points, 8 assists, 5 steals, 6 rebounds. Tristan Thompson had 18, 15, and 2. CJ Miles had 17 and 1. Anderson Varejao had 2 points, 14 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals. And Luol Deng was completely checked out with 10 points and 1 rebound and 1 steal.
Oh my God.
And Dion Waiters off the bench had 17. Jared Jack had 12, and Tyler Zeller had 10.
It wasn't a Dion Waiters highlight, and I can't even remember who blocked a shot, but Dion Waiters made my time. There was a clip of him getting blocked. They were showing like a bunch of the most recent, like really good 2-handed blocks the other day.
God, Richard Jefferson played for this Jazz team. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah, this was, oh my God, what a world. Cavs, this game, the Cavs are 5.5-point dogs in this one, for worth noting. I mean, just considering you're on the road and stuff, that doesn't feel like crazy.
It makes sense, but if you wanted to throw some money Cleveland's way, I would get it.
Yeah, again, use the promo code Locked On for your 50% welcome bonus at BetOnline. But that is going to be it. We'll be back. One last
question.
Okay, we're running long.
Quick hitter. Are you and Bill DiFilippo going to be friends when OU plays Penn State in week 2 next season?
Yeah. I'm always friends with Bill. Bill and I are watching our 2 English Premier League teams on All-Star Weekend together.
Now, I told you I was going to join you and just enjoy that my friends are happy and just sit there in silence and sip a pint.
Yeah, I mean, like even when OU plays Akron and you and Spencer Davies and Ken Carmen and all these Akron people I know, like I want you guys to be happy. I just I also want me to be happy.
It's okay. The sport you care about most and the one I care about the least in the grand scheme of life, Akron won a national title in. So
yeah, and you knew like none of the people that were on the team, and a lot of them have gone to have great professional careers. So joke's on you, buddy.
Yeah, I get the last laugh.
Oh, look, the reality is next year. We didn't go this year. Probably pandemic / there's a game on, and I was in quarantine at that point. I would generally, now that we are not just co-hosts and know each other, but our friends, I would like to go to Akron OU at the Jar together. I think that would be a good time.
Horribly named arena, but that'd be nice.
It'd be a good time. I'm just saying, it'd be fun.
James
Anyway,
Rhodes is a monster. Just look it up, folks. Give yourself an Ohio history lesson.
well, until we launch, that's it for JAR history and Akron history. Until we launch Locked on Mid American Conference. It's a point. I'm Chris. That's Evan. Everyone, be well.